January has over the years proven to be an awkward month to navigate financially. After all, it's the longest month on the calendar, considering that most workers will last pay their wages on the 15th of December or thereabouts. As we always do at this time of the year, we're joined by financial planner at Succession Financial Planning, and Bartho de Vries joins us this evening. Bartho, appreciate your time and a happy 2024. So let's talk about the month of January, because it always seems to stumble upon the average individual. I mean, it's like it just pops out from nowhere and nobody's ever prepared. What are the things that we do wrong in the build-up to January of each year?
Yeah. Hugo, thanks for having me on the show as usual. Great to have you here. And again, happy 2024 to you guys in the studio and all around South Africa and the world. I must say, when it comes to January, always this is a tough one because most people are paid on the 20th, and it is one of those longest months. And the only way to kind of mitigate that is to really plan from January all the way through to December. Because if you don't put away little bits of money as you go, then you won't have this sufficient funds for this January period. So, I think planning is something that I've always said is essential for these type of situations, where December is the month that it just seems to kind of let loose. A lot of people let loose a bit of the reins. They got family, they got gidi, they've got things that they have to do. And so, the money just kind of flows out in December, and January makes it a really tough month in January.
So let's talk about some personal experiences or strategies for effective budgeting or planning. I mean, how do you make this happen? One of the things that I know that my employer did, I think starting a few years ago, is they allowed you to save a little bit. So they would take off a little amount off your salary every month for that 12-month period, and it's almost like a 13th check that allows you either to pay for school fees or any other expenses that may just occur when it comes to January.
Yeah, I think that's a great method. Also, I think that's why a lot of guys use things like Stokvels or combined sharing, saving, because we are our worst enemies. When there's money in the bank, if you have 2,000 or 10,000 after debit orders, at the end of the month, it's gone. So we are our own worst enemy. So the strategy there is to kind of put away monthly. If you're find yourself that you're, which a lot of people don't, but diligent enough to put away 500 Rand a month, 1,000 Rand a month, whatever the case may be, towards this December spending or December holiday that you need to have, then that's great. If you can't, then a great strategy is maybe asking a charity to your employer to do that. I have had restaurants for many years, and it is something that we always found that in December time, there's loans going out, and luckily for us, we were able to say, okay, we've got 6 months to pay it back then without any interest. So, I think the biggest thing again is planning. So if you plan for it in advance, then at least you don't have this debt that you kind of have to pay back. And so if you find yourself now going, spending on your credit card or spending on these type of things, you're almost at a deficit, where if you have a bit of planning that you do ahead of time, then obviously it makes a massive difference. But the big problem is that we have a large percentage of the population sitting with us cash loans or credit cards, or that they kind of like have to pay that back. And so the challenge there is to pay it back and then to start planning for the next one, so that you kind of get yourself out of this debt deficit, because debt obviously costs money.
Well, Bartho, one of the biggest problems that most South Africans are having at the moment is that many of them are losing employment, or the number of hours that they're working are being cut. So where you had 1,000 Rand to spend, that 1,000 Rand is now 500, for instance, but your expenses aren't going away, and you still have to spend the same amount. How do you then do lifestyle changes? I mean, how important are lifestyle changes and dealing with what obviously is a long January at the end of each year?
I think there's a couple of things you can apply there in your life, Hugo. And lifestyle changes is difficult because we like this car that we're driving. We like this lifestyle that we're living, whatever the case may be. But, to be diligent and to say to yourself, I don't need to drive every day. I can do a bit of ride sharing. with someone else that's going in the same direction. Or I can use maybe public transport if it's an option for you from where you're going, buses, etc. Or you can say, you know what, I'm going to save on fuel or save on electricity in the house, or different things you can apply. Other thing is alcohol. Unfortunately, alcohol is very expensive. You know, a bottle of brandy and a Coke or a case of beers or quarts or whatever the case may be, alcohol is very, very expensive. So, you know, just cutting that out for maybe the month of January will give you a little bit of a budget cut already, which is quite a thing. But it's being diligent about a budget. And you say there that people are maybe being cut down on hours. Maybe the income isn't as much as it used to be. But the equation or the percentage stays the same. If you're earning 3,000 Rand a month, 10,000 Rand a month, or 50,000 Rand a month, you know, the kind of your spending habits just change. That lifestyle creep happens. So, you know, the kind of everybody will experience the same type of thing. It might just be a much more difficult for the person earning 5 or 6 or 8,000 Rand a month versus somebody that's earning a bit more. But the principle stays the same. Plan and strategize that you kind of meal plan, see where you can save. And lifestyle cuts is really difficult for a lot of people, but it's often very necessary.
Well, you've talked about the conversations that we could be having with our employers or maybe the bank, for instance. But what about the conversations that partners should be having in the same household? What are those conversations like? Because you may find that one party thinks, well, you know what, it's Christmas, let's splurge a little, and they haven't done a budget and they spend more than they actually have.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that often causes a lot of fights in relationships because, you know, if they're both spenders, then that's one of those things, and both of you battle at the end of the month. But often there is this one partner that's kind of going, you know what, we need to save, and the other one is going, yo, it's free fall, let's go, and it's December. And I think it puts a lot of strain on relationships. But the conversation there is having a kind of set out budget. So, you know, if we had to go overseas or go on a trip, we have a set amount that we can spend per day. It's worked out per day because that we can control. Otherwise, you get to the end of the week and you go, I haven't controlled it. But if it's 100 Rand a day, 150 Rand a day, 200 Rand a day, whatever the case may be, that's the budget. So if I want to spend something a bit more, then I have to not spend for 2 days before I can get to that, you know. And it's kind of like my wife and I can then plan that. We've created or opened up a separate bank account through Discovery, and we kind of put that money in there so we know how much it is. So we've got a bit more control over it. So it's these different pockets that you almost have. And the same with financial planning. The holistic financial planning, when you're looking at, or lifestyle planning, as some financial planners want to call it, is kind of having these pockets. So I have a holiday fund that I put in monthly. I put money away for my holiday fund. So when we go on holiday, that's the money that we use for it. And I'm not touching my kids' education or my retirement annuity or my anything like that, but there's a specific function for that saving.
Bartho de Vries, appreciate your time, and we were talking holistic financial planning and succession financial planning ahead of a very, very long January.